Peacock Feathers by Temple Bailey, Chapter 7. 1. Lionel raged when he read the agent's letter. After all his promises! He didn't promise anything, Lion. Expect to give it a reading and to push it if it was worth it. But it is a good play, Jerry. Is it? I'm not so sure. As he says, we need experience. Lots of first plays get by, he flung back at me. We were in Lionel's room, and I stood at the window looking out. It was raining, a dreary autumn rain with a thick smoky sky above it. In the park across the street, the storm had swept the trees bare. Some blight seemed to have fallen on the golden city, which I had entered with such high hopes. I'll have to leave the hotel, I said. I can't afford it. You'll do nothing of the kind, Lionel exploded. I want to go on with the play. I can't live on rejected manuscripts. He turned on me in a sort of fury. Why should they be rejected? Don't you think I can do it? I did not answer at once. I knew he was asking of me what he had so often asked, implicit belief in his powers. Yet a spirit of discouragement gripped me. The wind had risen and the rain washed down the windows. I looked out on a streaming world and felt as if a blank wall blotted out my future. It will take time to find out what either of us can do, I said, and in the meantime I can't afford to stay here. He did not look at me. Of course, if you feel like that. I knew that he was angry, hurt, overthrown by the disaster which had come upon us. Yet I had nothing to say to him. I too was overthrown. I was glad when, breaking in on our silence, the telephone rang. We had been, I felt, on the edge of a quarrel. Any interruption was welcome. It was Bernice wanting Lionel to have tea with her. He demurred. I should simply weep on your shoulder, honey. The play has been rejected and Jerry and I are throwing bricks at each other. She argued with him, evidently, and his voice took on a softer note. You are a darling. Yes, at 4. He hung up the receiver. She's too good for me, Jerry, he said soberly, and stood beside me looking out at the streaming rain. I laid my hand on his arm. We did not speak, but the anger had gone out of us. When Lionel left me, I faced the facts. I must find some way to retrench. I had mortgaged my allowance for several months ahead. It was out of the question for me to engage in other work than literature. I was dedicated to that, and I must prove myself to Mimi. Since I had no money, I must have fame to lay at her feet. I decided that all else failing, I would ask a loan of my father. I could pay him at my leisure. I sat down and wrote to him. It was not the letter of a prodigal. There had been, of course, no husks and swine. I admitted I had been foolish. I had lived beyond my means. But the temptation had been great, and there was still much at stake. When I had posted the letter, my spirits rose. It was 5 o'clock and still raining. I wanted more than anything in the world to see Mimi. I felt that if she knew my plight she would be moved to tenderness. Yet I dared not call her up. Restless, yearning for a confidant, I telephoned to Olga. May I come over? Jerry, but you have neglected me shamefully. I don't know whether I ought to forgive you. I have been up to my ears in work, writing a play with Lionel, and this morning it came back to us. It was an awful blow. She melted at once. Come, tell me about it. I went, and found it comforting to have Olga's sympathy. Even the awful Turkish retreat seemed to glow with a pleasant brightness after the dreariness outside. Of course you mustn't leave town, she said, when she had heard my woeful tale. We'll have to find some other way out of it. I told her that I had written to my father. If he lends me the money, I'll be all right." Coffee had been brought in, and she poured a cup for me, and then one for herself, which she made sweet with much sugar and mellow with cream. She ate with it one of the fat chocolate cakes, which added so many pounds to her overabundant figure. "If your father won't lend it to you," she said at last, "I will." I flushed. I couldn't do that. Well, why not? Well, I couldn't. She turned that over in her mind and said at last, "If you leave here, you'll lose Mimi. How can you expect to hold her when you are 200 miles away? A girl like that, with men swarming about her like bees. They all have money and the things she wants, and you haven't anything to offer but a pack of dreams." I knew what she said was true, but I wasn't willing to admit it. If she is the woman I think she is, she'll wait. Olga made an impatient movement. "Jerry, she won't. Don't fool yourself. I know more of life than you do. Mimi hasn't time these days to think. She hasn't time for anything. She is swept on from one excitement to another. She is caught in a tide too strong to resist." "She will resist," I said. "Underneath it all she loves me. I know that she loves me." "Well, let her prove it," said Olga. "I will make it possible for her to marry you. We'll see if she will do it." I looked at her in astonishment. "Make it possible?" "Yes, I'll offer her a share of her grandfather's money. It won't be such a fortune as Andy could give her, but it will save her from marrying him if she wants to be saved." My mind was in tumult. I had a feeling that the whole thing was fantastic, too much like a fairy tale. Here was Mimi among the ashes, as it were, and Olga would have a wand. The ogre would become in effect the benevolent fairy godmother. "What do you think of it?" Olga asked. I stammered. "I don't know." "Why don't you know?" "Well, it is a lot to expect of you." "It isn't half as much as Mrs. Lebrun expects." There was a touch of bitterness in her tone. "I have always felt that the senator's will should have been different, but I have hated the family's attitude about it. They're stutting me out as if it were my fault. But I'd like to have you happy, Jerry, and if you want Mimi, you shall have her." It was a strange and rather spectacular thing for her to do, but I was sure she was right when she said that her inheritance had made her uncomfortable, and she took this way in part to square things. "I shall tell Mimi that she can have it if she will marry you." I protested. "Don't tie any strings to it. She must be free to decide." "Are you afraid to put her to the test, Jerry? If she loves you, she won't question any conditions I may make." "But her pride?" "Pride!" With scorn. "Peacock feathers. Vanity. Everyone in that family has been willing to take things at my hands. If they had been proud, they would have worked their fingers to the bone before they would have accepted my favor." I knew that what she said was true, and that I too had wondered that they could take so much and give so little. Yet I argued with her, defended them, and at last said desperately, "I will have nothing to do with it unless she is left free." She was as obstinate as I. "Then I shan't offer it, Jerry. I am giving it to you as much as to Mimi, and I won't have Mrs. Lebrun sharing it." At last I weakened. "I want her to be happy, and I can make her happy. I can." "Of course you can. Shall we call it settled then?" There seemed nothing else to do but acquiesce. Yet I was still doubtful when she announced her plans. Mimi was to make her bow to society in 10 days. Invitations were already out to the dance in the Rose Ballroom. "I shall tell her then, Jerry, in the library, and you shall be there." She was so sure that things would go well with me that I tried to share her optimism. On the back of my own invitation to the ball, Mimi had written, I am going to give you 2 dances, Jerry, and we will sit out one of them. I have 1,000 things to say to you." On that hope I lived. I was restless, eager. In 10 days, perhaps, my world would change. Yet, when I allowed my thoughts to dwell on Olga's fantastic scheme, I found myself liking it less and less. It would mean that I must go to Mimi with my hands empty, that she would give and I would take. Yet I saw no other way out of it. Before the night of the ball, 2 things happened. I had a letter from my father in which he refused to lend me money, and I discovered that Lionel had paid his debts by pawning Bernice's pearls. I did not learn this latter fact from Lionel. I had gone to his room after my visit with Olga. He was not yet dressed for dinner, and as I was ready I sat down in a big chair by his table to wait for him. There was a reading lamp on the table, which drew around itself a golden circle, and just beyond the circle I was aware of a flash of vivid green. At first I thought the light was playing tricks on me. Then I saw that an open leather jewel case lay among the books, and in the case was a string of pearls with an emerald shamrock clasp. Bernice's pearls! There was no mistaking them. She had offered them on the altar of her love for Lionel, and I knew how lightly he had accepted this sacrifice. I did not want him to know that I had seen them, so I laid the evening paper over the leather case, and the next day when he told me jauntily that he had managed to get some money, my cheeks burned with my knowledge of the truth. The letter from my father was so like him that I felt no sense of indignation or of anger at his refusal to grant my request. "I can't do it, Jerry. The thing that I want for you is strength, and I pray every night on my knees that it may be given you. You will never have it as long as you lean on me. You have been more than fortunate, although I am not sure even yet that it is good fortune to have an income provided which will permit you to go on with your chosen work. If that income has not been sufficient, it is because you have not learned the first lesson a man has to learn, to live on what he has, no matter at what sacrifice." Does that sound harsh? My dear boy, you know my love for you, so I shall not offer any excuse, except perhaps this one, that to let you have the money would be to deprive your grandmother and your aunt of the things I had hoped might make them comfortable this winter, and I know you too well to believe that you would want me to do that. There must be a new heating plant of some kind if we are to be warm. Our old stoves are not adequate. If I send you the money, I am afraid your grandmother's ancient bones will ache. I have this to say, however. Why not come to us for a few months? You ought to be able to do some writing here in this quiet place where you will be undisturbed by outside forces. Spend your Christmas with us, Jerry, and our hearts will be glad. Then if you want to go back, Godspeed you. As for the woman you love, if she really cares, she will find it out when you are away from her. Her heart will travel to you across the miles. Write to me at once and let me know that you understand this letter and my motive in failing to let you have the money. The fact that I want you to have it more than I want my mother and sister to have new stoves shows how my sense of justice is blurred by my affection for you. I'd rather freeze all winter than leave a wish of yours ungranted. So you see how weak I am, and it takes the memory of your mother's voice. You must think of his good, Stephen, to hold me to my purpose. I have my father's letter yet, and have copied it. It shows the battle which he fought between his love for his son and his fear that he might spoil him. I answered at once, and told him that I understood, but that I could not be sure of coming to him at Christmas time. Things must work out for me a bit before I made my decision. I did not tell him that my fate hung in the balance, and that if I came to him my hopes would be dead. 2. The picture which the Rose Ballroom presented on the night of the crowning event was an unforgettable one, of loveliness and luxury. It was the last time that I was to take part in such festivities. I did not know it then, but in a few days I was to leave behind me forever this world of silk and shining beauty, of rosy effulgence, of carefree indulgence, of gay assumption that nothing in the world mattered but a good time. Olga had let me come early, and I was at the door when Mimi arrived. The fur of her gorgeous wrap reached to her ears, and above the fur was the radiance of her glance, the beauty of her hair. For once she had forsworn her favorite colors, so that she matched the ballroom in her rosiness. As her cloak fell back, I caught my breath. She was exquisite, so absolutely a creature of the world which encompassed her. Silver slippers, silver butterflies on the rosy tulle. She gave me her hand, and it went to my lips. Neither of us spoke, yet my heart cried out to her, and I think the cry was answered. We had only that moment, for Miss Lebrun, who had stopped to speak to Olga, came up to us. "The guests are arriving, Mimi," she said. "You'd better run in and be ready for them." Then she spoke to me with an air of maddening patronage. "You've been a good boy, Jerry. You can see her now as often as you wish. The danger is over." She swept on and up the stairs, leaving me stranded on the shores of apprehension. She seemed so secure, so triumphant. Yet nothing could rob me of the rapture of the thought that Mimi was under the same roof with me, that I could feast my eyes upon her. I made my way to the balcony and looked down to where I could see her standing just beyond the arched entrance to the ballroom. She saw me and fluttered her fingers up towards me in a charming gesture. I waved back and sat there for a long time alone, gazing down. I saw Andy, erect and assured of manner, standing with an irritating air of proprietorship beside Mimi. I saw Mrs. Barry and Bernice, with Lionel in attendance. I saw Catherine Merrill and Styles Sanderson, and the Amidon twins. I saw Olga elbow to elbow with Mrs. Lebrun, and Rachel in gold tissue and the family diamonds. Many times in later years the scene was to come back to me, the fluid color of it, the astonishing separation of it from all that had to do with squalor and sordidness, its absolutely artificial quality and its fascination. Many single incidents stand out in my memory of that night, yet, except for the final dramatic climax, none more vividly than my talk with Bernice. We had danced together, and afterwards had wandered out into the great sunroom, which, with its Italian marbles, its gay tropical birds on perches, lent itself perfectly to the decorative scheme of a rose garden, overtopping by a sky of turquoise silk. Bernice had seemed to me quite like the girl I had first met, gay, irresponsible, audacious. "Something has happened to you," I told her. "You act as if you hadn't a care in the world." "I haven't." Then, with a sudden change of tone, "Jerry, what is your idea of heaven?" "Oh, a place of happiness, I suppose. Why?" "If it is a place where we get what we want, well, I'm in heaven, Jerry. I'm going to marry Lionel." I was startled, and I confess dismayed. When?" She hesitated. "Tomorrow. Oh, Jerry, I shouldn't have told you, but it slipped out. We meant it to be a secret." "Do you mean that your father and mother don't know?" "We couldn't tell them. Do you think we are wrong? Do you?" "I think you are taking great chances." "But why? We've got to do something. Lionel needs money, and he can't get it. And I have some property in my own right." "And you will let him have it, as you let him have the pearls." Her cheeks were hot. "You knew that?" "I saw them on Lionel's table. He doesn't know that I saw them." All the brightness went out of her glance. "I've had an awful time keeping it from Mother. She wanted me to wear them tonight. I told her the clasp was broken, and I hate lies." I knew she was an honest little thing, sound and sweet under the overlay of frivolity. I tried to warn her. "Don't you see what a net you are drawing about yourself? And it isn't helping Lionel." "Why not?" "A woman doesn't help a man when she encourages him to do things like that. Lionel is my friend, but I should hate to see you marry him, Bernice." "Jerry, don't." Her face was white. The truth came to me then like a blow. "You are married already, Bernice?" "Yes." "When?" "This morning. I'm going to tell Mother tonight. If she and Father don't forgive us, we are going away, and they'll want us back. They won't hold out." "But suppose they should hold out, Bernice?" "Then Lionel and I shall have each other." The look in her eyes stopped the words that were on my lips. Why talk of a thing which was done? I took her hand. "God bless you both, my dear." She was wistful. "You are such a nice old-fashioned sort of person, Jerry. Nobody but you ever speaks to me of God." "My father is a parson. Perhaps that's why I do it." "I think you do it anyhow." We sat there in silence, while a gaudy bird on a perch near us ducked his head in a sort of mad little dance, which seemed to match the mood of the dancers in the room beyond. Before we went back to the others, Bernice made me promise not to let Lionel know that she had spoken of their marriage. "It just slipped out, Jerry, and you are so comfortable to confide in." I saw her later dancing with Lionel. Her face was raised to his, and its radiance swept it clear of doubts. 3. My second dance with Mimi came just before midnight, and it was then we had our chance to talk. That we might be absolutely alone, we fled to the Turkish retreat, where Mimi sat like a rose among the puffy and gold cushions, and where one of Olga's awful screens hid us from any wandering guests who might drift into the room. "What did your mother mean by saying that the danger was over?" I demanded. "She thinks I'm going to marry Andy." "What makes her think it?" She flashed a challenging glance. "Andy thinks so too." I stood over her. "But you're not." "Oh, you couldn't do a thing like that, Mimi." "Why couldn't I?" "Jerry, listen. What other way is there out of it? I don't love him as I might love you, but it isn't possible for me to marry you. It wouldn't be possible for years. You mustn't think that I don't want romance. It was heavenly up there in Maine. You made me feel like the little girl I used to be. But I've got to be sensible. Mother and I can't go on this way. In spite of everything everybody has done for us, our bills are appalling. If I don't marry soon, I don't know what will happen to us. I can't work, and you wouldn't want me to, would you, Jerry?" All rosy tulle and silver butterflies, you could link her with the thought of drudgery, yet I said, "I'd rather have you work your fingers to the bone than marry a man you didn't love." She blazed. "Do you call that caring? If you cared, Jerry, you wouldn't want hard things to touch me." I had ready for her my father's stern philosophy. It isn't the hard things that hurt us. "Oh, do you really believe that?" she flung back at me. "Do you think I'd be happy for 1 minute in ugly surroundings?" She had me there. I could not see her in any setting but that of enchantment. I could not see her as anything but silken and shining. But I stuck to my point. "You won't be happy with Andy." "One side of me will. There are 2 Mimis, Jerry, the one I might be if it were possible for us to go on together, and the one I shall be if I marry Andy. I shall be happy in having lovely things and social success." "Dead sea apples," said my father's son. She sat there looking up at me with lovely wistful eyes, and I found myself saying, "If it were possible for you to marry me, would you be glad, Mimi?" "It would be all that I have dreamed, Cherry." I caught her hands in mine and drew her up from the cushions. "Mimi, perhaps if we dream hard enough—" She escaped from me and perched herself on the arm of a chair at some distance. "We mustn't be silly, Cherry." I was reckless, filled with the thought of the revelation which was to come to her before the evening was over. "Mimi, you say that I mean more to you than Andy. Prove it." "How?" "Give me 2 of his dances tonight." Her breath came quick. "But he'd be furious." "Who cares?" I could see that she shared my excitement, that to some extent I dominated her. "Say that you will," I insisted, yet was surprised when she yielded. My remembrance of the rest of the night is of an excitement which drove me on and on madly. I danced with one girl after another, girls in pink and girls in blue and girls in green, girls in silver gowns and gowns in gold, but for all I cared for any of them, their faces might have been blank masks, which made them all alike. Their words were a meaningless jumble. Their coquetry was a thing to be met with a mechanical show of gallantry. It was only the dances with Mimi which counted, the ones I had stolen from Andy. Oh, the youth of it and the triumph! I gloried in Andy's black looks, in the knowledge that it was I who could play on the keys of Mimi's nature. What was he with all his money? It was not he who drew Mimi, but I, Jerry Chandler, country boy and son of a parson. At supper, Olga's planning had placed me at the debutante's table with Mimi opposite me. My blood ran wildly. I found myself the gayest of the gay, making a ringing speech when toasts were drunk, winning tumultuous applause. Lighted by that inner fire, I drew the eyes of people who did not know me. My cheeks were red and my eyes bright because of Mimi. My wit sparkled because of Mimi. I had no vanity, no conceit of myself. This was my hour, the hour she had given me. There was the hope, too, in my heart, that there were many other hours in the future which we would share together. 4. The supreme moment came at last when Olga and Mimi and I met in the old library, a picture to carry through the years that followed. Mimi's beauty, Olga's opulent loveliness, my own ecstatic youth. The library had been untouched since the senator's death, and retained much of the dignity which the rest of the house had lost. Over the mantel was a portrait of Mimi's grandmother. This had not been taken down when Olga had come to reign as a mistress. The portrait had been painted when the senator's first wife was a bride. It had everything that Olga lacked, the delicate poise, the distinction, the pride of bearing. Yet there was about Olga a certain attractive reposefulness as she sat by the heavy table, with the light from a massive copper dome falling upon her, setting the diamonds which she wore in her hair ablaze. She plunged at once into the thing she had to say. "I asked you to come, Mimi, because I have something important to talk over with you and Jerry." Mimi's smile was charming. "It sounds delightfully interesting, Olga." "I think it will be." Then in a crisp and businesslike manner she stated the case. For a long time she had been thinking she would like to do what she was sure her husband would have been glad to have her do. She had money enough and to spare, and it would be perfectly possible for her to share it without any hardship to herself. She ended this preamble with, "I wanted to have some of it, Mimi." I was aware of Mimi's complete amazement. Do you mean that you are giving me a part of grandfather's money? Yes. But how dear of you, Olga. I wish I could make you see her as I saw her then, leaning a little towards Olga, her bare arms as white as milk against the dark wood of the table, her eyes lighted. Are you giving Lion his share too? She asked. No. Mimi was frankly puzzled. Why should I have it if he doesn't? Olga flushed. It is enough, isn't it, if I give it to one of you? I like you better than I do the rest, Mimi, and I want you to marry Jerry. I saw Mimi's hands open and shut in a tense movement. What has my marrying Jerry to do with it? I am giving it to you to make your marriage with him possible. And it isn't to be mine unless I marry him? No. In the dead silence which followed, I knew that the thing was done for. Olga's bluntness, Mimi's pride, the two would no more mix than oil and water. Mimi turned towards me. Did you know this, Jerry? Yes. And you were willing? Not at first, but there didn't seem to be any other way out. She stood up. Oh, she said, did you think this was a way out? That I should take as a gift from Olga that which belongs to me, the money that grandfather meant me to have, so that you might live on it? Scorn in every line of her stormy eyes, in her high-held head. So might some small duchess far back in her family line have arraigned a lout who had insulted her. But I had my pride too. You can take that back, I said. You know it isn't true. I don't want Olga's money. I don't want anybody's money. I want you. I'd want you if I had to live in an attic for the rest of my life. She was white. Oh, I wish you'd stop talking of attics. I hate them. And I meant what I said. I won't take anything back. We faced each other, stormy eye meeting stormy eye. This is the end, then, I told her. No man could stand a thing like that and keep his self-respect. She flung up her hand in a gesture of disdain. It should have been the end long ago, and before we could speak or try to stop her, she swept her radiant presence from the room and left it dark. Neither Olga nor I spoke for several moments. Then Olga said gloomily, Well, we've made a mess of it, but I must say that I tried to do my best for both of you. I could see that she was hurt, thrown back upon herself, and I was sorry. You have been more than kind, Olga, I said. I must seem to you ungrateful, but I am not. All I can say is that you are both very foolish, Jerry. Such a chance may not come your way again. She rose and stood by the table. You mustn't think that this will make any difference in my feeling for you. And as I told you, I'll be glad to let you have some money any time you need it. I couldn't take it. Thanks just the same. But what will you do? My father wants me at home for Christmas. And after that? God knows. She had to leave me then and go back to her guests. I stayed in the library alone. My hopes were shattered, my dreams gone. After a long time I realized that Olga's guests were departing. From behind the curtain of one of the long windows I watched them go. There was a tunnel of striped canvas covering the steps and terrace. The figures which emerged from the end of the tunnel were visible only for a fleeting moment before they stepped into their waiting motors. I had thus a glimpse of Mimi and Andy bending above her. The light shone on her russet hair, and they drove away together. End of Chapter 7. From the novel Peacock Feathers by Temple Bailey,